The envelope slammed against the front door, sliding across the wooden floor with a soft thud. Clara's heart jumped violently, her fingers frozen over the edge of the paper. She had been folding laundry moments ago, and now the sudden sound sent a shiver down her spine. "Who?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Her younger brother, Mark, peeked from behind the couch, eyes wide. "What was that?" he asked, voice shaky. Clara swallowed hard, bending to pick up the envelope. It was plain, no stamp, no return address. The weight of it was heavier than a normal piece of mail, somehow commanding attention. She hesitated before breaking the seal. A single line was written in neat, bold letters: "Do not open your door tonight, no matter who knocks." Her stomach dropped. "Mark, did you see this?" she asked. He shook his head, gripping the edge of the couch. "It's a joke, right? Someone's playing a prank." Clara wanted to believe him, she really did, but the way the shadows seemed to twitch in the corner of the room made her doubt herself. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The soft hum of the ceiling fan stuttered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Mark let out a small gasp and buried his face in Clara's shoulder. The house that had felt safe all her life now seemed alien, as if watching her. A knock came at the door, slow and deliberate. 1, 2, 3 soft raps. Clara froze. Mark clutched her arm. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. She nodded, feeling her pulse slam against her chest. "Who's there?" she called, voice barely steady. Silence. Then a shuffle, like a shadow sliding across the porch. She wanted to run, wanted to throw the door open and demand answers, but something inside her told her not to. The envelope's warning echoed in her mind: "Do not open your door tonight." Mark's hand gripped hers tightly. "We should call someone," he whispered. "No," Clara said firmly, though her voice quivered. "If whoever it is, if they want something, we stay calm. We stay inside." They moved to the window together, peering out at the dim street. The faint glow of the streetlights barely illuminated the outlines of neighboring homes. Everyone's front doors were shut, some slightly ajar with shadows flitting behind them. She noticed something strange, a figure moving silently between the houses on the opposite side of the street. The person didn't make a sound, didn't cast a reflection in the glass, yet there was no doubt they were there. "Clara, that person," Mark stammered, they're walking right past the Jenkins house, they didn't knock, they didn't." His words cut off as the figure paused, seemingly turning in their direction, though nothing in the dim light could be seen clearly. Clara's breath caught. The envelope had said, "Do not open your door," and now she understood that the warning was not just about their house, it was about the town, the streets, the entire neighborhood. Panic pressed at the edges of her mind. By now, other houses were stirring. Lights flicked on, neighbors peered out cautiously. Mrs. Adams, the nervous neighbor, appeared at her doorway, holding the same envelope. Her eyes darted back and forth, full of fright. Across the street, Mr. Clark, ever skeptical, frowned and muttered, "This is ridiculous," but the tight clenching of his jaw betrayed his unease. Clara realized everyone in the town had received one. The same warning. "I don't like this," Mark said, voice almost breaking. "We should leave." Clara shook her head. "We can't. Not yet. We need to see what's happening first." Her voice was steadier than she felt, but her hands were cold and trembling. She looked out again. Shadows moved with deliberate precision. The street was eerily quiet except for the occasional bark of a dog somewhere in the distance. The next knock was louder, heavier. It sounded like someone rapping with authority, demanding attention. Clara flinched. Do we call the police?" Mark asked. She hesitated. The envelope hadn't warned them about strangers or danger outside, just the simple, chilling words, "Do not open your door tonight." As they debated, a soft hum began from the mailbox at the edge of the yard. Clara stepped closer, heart hammering. Another envelope slid out, exactly like the first, landing with a soft thud at her feet. She picked it up and froze. No writing this time, just a symbol. A circle, broken by a jagged line. A strange, alien design she didn't recognize. Her stomach churned. "Mark, look at this," she said, voice barely audible. His eyes widened as he bent closer. It's the same symbol on every house," he whispered. Clara nodded, noticing for the first time that nearly every neighbor's mailbox had received one. "Something's wrong," Mark said, voice shaking. Clara grabbed his shoulder. "I know. But panicking won't help. We stay inside. We wait." She turned to the window again, scanning for movement. The shadowy figure had disappeared, and the street seemed calm, almost too calm. Her gut screamed that this was only the beginning. Just then, a knock echoed from the other side of the house. Louder this time. Deliberate. Clara's pulse spiked. "They're in the backyard," she whispered, dragging Mark back from the window. Her mind raced. What could it be? A prank? A thief? No, it felt wrong, unnatural, something that made the hairs on her neck stand on end. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number appeared. "Do not open your door. Not now. Not ever tonight." Clara's hands shook as she read it. She pressed the phone to Mark's ear. It's not just us. Everyone is getting this," she said. He gulped audibly, eyes wide with fear. Clara knew she needed information. They couldn't just sit in the house waiting for whatever was outside to strike. We have to understand what's happening," she muttered. Mark looked at her in horror. "You're crazy." "We stay here," she ignored him. Slipping into her jacket over pajamas, she grabbed a flashlight. Mark, reluctantly, followed, wrapping a blanket around himself for courage. Outside, the town had changed. The streets were alive with whispers, shadows darting between houses, light flickering in unnatural patterns. Some neighbors, like the panicked Mrs. Perez, were peering from windows, others, like the prankster Tom, were nervously pacing, holding envelopes like shields. Clara and Mark moved carefully through the dimly lit street, the envelopes crinkling in their hands as if they had their own life. From the corner of the street, a figure stepped forward. Tall, cloaked, silent, observing. Clara froze. Mark clutched her arm. Do you see them?" he whispered. Clara nodded, gripping her flashlight tighter. The figure didn't move closer. It only watched, head tilting slightly. Then, without warning, it turned and disappeared into the shadows between houses. Clara exhaled slowly. Something is happening to this town," she muttered. From a distance, another figure emerged, a man approaching the cafe, calm, steady, holding a notebook. He stopped under a flickering streetlight, scanning the street. He was not one of the shadowy watchers. There was an air of authority, a sense of knowledge. Clara's heart raced. She knew instinctively, this was someone important, someone who could explain, or perhaps, someone who might test them further. She glanced at Mark. "We follow him," she whispered. "We have no choice." Mark hesitated, biting his lip. I don't like this. None of this makes sense." Clara ignored him, stepping forward into the darkness. The envelopes crinkled in her hands. Every house seemed to hold a secret. Every window a hidden watcher. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the first knock of the night echoed again, a signal, a warning, or maybe an invitation. Clara moved quickly through the street, Mark clinging to her side. The mysterious man under the streetlight didn't glance back, just continued toward the cafe. Each step seemed heavier than the last, the air thick with tension. Around them, shadows darted between houses, whispering as if the town itself was alive and watching. Even the night seemed on edge, the wind carrying faint, almost human murmurs. As they reached the cafe, Clara noticed the warm glow inside contrasted sharply with the cold, threatening darkness outside. A few townspeople had gathered, huddled in clusters, clutching their envelopes. Mrs. Adams shook her head, mumbling to herself, while Leo, the curious teen, peeked over the counter nervously. "Has anyone else heard things?" he asked, voice small. Everyone froze, exchanging uneasy glances. The mysterious man stopped just inside the doorway, his eyes scanning the room. Clara felt her pulse spike. He was tall, imposing, dressed in a dark coat, notebook clutched tightly in his hands. Without looking at them, he spoke. "You shouldn't be here alone. The letters, they are only the beginning." His voice was calm but carried an undercurrent of authority that made everyone silent. Clara stepped forward. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice stronger than she felt. What is happening to our town? The man's gaze finally met hers. I'm someone who knows the truth behind these letters. But truth has a price. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Mark shuffled nervously beside her. We just want to understand. Clara insisted. Before the men could respond, a loud bang echoed outside. Everyone jumped. The front door rattled violently, though no one was visible on the street. Shadows shifted, seemingly moving faster than humanly possible. Mrs. Perez screamed from a corner table, clutching her envelope. They're outside. They're coming, she cried. Panic rippled through the cafe. The mysterious man raised a hand. Calm. Everyone calm. You need to listen. Clara glanced at Mark. His eyes were wide, filled with fear. This is insane, he whispered. It's not just letters. It's something else. The men stepped closer. Exactly. The envelopes are warnings. Tests. Every house, every family, is part of something older than you realize. He flipped open his notebook, revealing sketches of symbols, dates, and houses marked with the same jagged circle Clara had seen earlier. What does it mean? Clara asked, her voice trembling. The men hesitated. The town made a pact decades ago, a secret pact. Those who ignore it, disappear. His eyes flicked to the window. Clara followed his gaze. Across the street, a figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. A chill ran down her spine. Disappear, she whispered. You mean, people die? The man shook his head. Not exactly. They're removed. From this town, from time, from memory. No one remembers them afterward. Only the letters hint at the consequences. A low hum echoed through the cafe, the lights flickering. Leo pressed himself against the wall, face pale. This is insane, he muttered. Clara gritted her teeth. Then we have to figure it out. I need to know if my family, if Mark, we're in danger. The man closed his notebook. You are already part of it. The letters singled you out because you, Clara, are central to what is coming. You must understand the rules, or you won't survive the night. Mark's grip tightened on her sleeve. I told you we should have stayed home, he hissed. It's too late for that, Clara said firmly, determination replacing some of the fear. We follow him. We find the answers. The men nodded. Good. Then we start at the abandoned house at the edge of town. All the letters trace back there. He led the way through narrow alleys, past houses where neighbors huddled behind curtains, clutching their envelopes like lifelines. The night air was thick with tension. Every shadow could conceal danger, every faint movement made their hearts pound. When they reached the abandoned house, the structure loomed like a dark sentinel. Its windows were shattered, and the door hung loosely on rusted hinges. Clara hesitated, glancing at Mark. You really want to go in there? She asked. We have to, he said, though his voice was barely above a whisper. Clara took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the air was stale, carrying the scent of decay. Dust danced in the narrow beams of their flashlights. The mysterious men led them to a back room, where piles of old letters and photographs were stacked in disorganized chaos. Symbols identical to the ones on the envelopes were drawn across the walls. Clara's eyes widened as she recognized some faces in the photographs, children, parents, people she remembered, some missing, some never spoken of. These, she began, voice trembling, these are all gone. The men nodded. Yes. They ignored the letters, the warnings, or the rules of the pact. They were removed. And now, tonight, it tests the next generation. His eyes fixed on her. You and your brother are next if you don't follow the rules. Mark swallowed hard. Rules? What rules? The men paused, letting the weight of the room press down on them. You must stay inside tonight. Do not open your door for anyone. Do not leave. And above all, you must watch, learn, survive. Clara's mind raced. And if we don't? The men didn't answer immediately. His gaze flicked to the doorway. A shadow moved outside, just beyond the broken window. Clara shivered. Mark grabbed her hand. Clara. I don't want this, he whispered. I know, she said, squeezing his hand. But we don't have a choice. We either face it or disappear too. She felt a strange mix of fear and determination rising within her, the same determination that had driven her out of the house despite every instinct telling her to hide. From the corner of the room, a faint scratching sound echoed against the wall. Clara froze. The mysterious man held up a hand. Do not turn around. Whatever it is, it watches, it waits. That's why the letters warn you. That's why every house has received one. Clara's flashlight trembled as she scanned the room. Another envelope slid out from under a pile, this one addressed to her personally, in the same bold handwriting. Do not open your door tonight, the watcher is near. She swallowed hard, gripping it tightly. Mark tugged at her sleeve. Can we just leave, he begged. Clara shook her head. We have to see it through. We need answers. She turned to the man. What do we do next? He closed the notebook again, his expression serious. We wait. Watch. Listen. Every sound, every movement, it's part of the test. And when the night reaches its peak, the true challenge begins. A sudden noise outside, a loud knock, heavier than before, made them all jump. The sound was deliberate, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Clara's heart raced in sync. Shadows shifted in the broken windows. She realized with a sinking feeling, this was only the beginning. Mark's voice quivered. Clara, do you think they know we're here? Clara bit her lip. I don't know. But we can't show fear. We have to stay calm, stay alive. The men stepped toward a window, peering outside. Every house will face tonight differently. Some will hide. Some will fail. And some will make it through. His eyes locked with Clara's. You must be the ones who survive. The weight of his words settled over her. She realized that this night would not just test her courage, but her mind, her instincts, even her bond with her brother. And as the shadows outside continued to move, the wind whispered through the broken roof, carrying the faintest echo of children laughing or crying. Clara couldn't tell which. Then, suddenly, a knock came directly at the door of the abandoned house. Loud, deliberate, as if demanding entry. Clara jumped. Mark grabbed her arm, eyes wide. The men held up a hand. Do not open it. Not yet. Observe. Clara took a deep breath, listening. Every muscle in her body screamed to bolt, to run, to hide, but she couldn't. The letters were right. The rules were clear. She had to stay, and she had to watch. The shadows outside grew darker, shifting closer. The night stretched on, thick with suspense, the town silent except for the occasional whisper, bark, or creak of old wood. Every envelope, every symbol, every knock reminded her that this was no ordinary night. It was a test, a game of survival that had been set in motion long before she was born. And as the minutes stretched into an hour, Clara realized that the real terror was only beginning. Clara and Mark crouched behind a broken counter, flashlights shaking in their hands. The abandoned house seemed alive with shadows, every creak of the wooden floorboards making their hearts pound faster. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the broken windows. The envelope in Clara's hand felt heavier now, as if pulsing with a warning. Do you think everyone else is okay? Mark whispered, his voice small, almost swallowed by the darkness. Clara shook her head. I don't know, but I can't think about that now. We focus on surviving this night, on understanding it. Her words trembled, but they carried determination. A soft shuffling noise came from the corner of the room. Clara held her breath, shining the flashlight toward the sound. A shadowy figure darted past, vanishing into the darkness. Mark let out a small gasp and pressed himself closer to her. Clara, it's moving faster than before. Clara gritted her teeth. I know. Stay calm. Remember the rules, do not open your door, do not leave, observe everything. The man, still standing near a cracked window, nodded approvingly. Good. Observation is the key. Every detail matters tonight. Suddenly, the door creaked. Not just the old hinges, someone was trying to force it open. Clara's breath hitched. It's testing us, she whispered. The men didn't move, didn't speak. He simply observed as the force against the door grew stronger. Mark trembled. Clara, we have to do something. Clara shook her head, gripping his hand. No. We wait. That's the only way to survive. Outside, the street seemed to come alive. Every house bore its own shadow, each figure moving with precision. Clara realized that the letters were not just warnings, they were instructions, a trial. She thought of Mrs. Adams, of Mr. Clark, of the neighbors peeking from their windows, all holding envelopes like lifelines. Some would survive. Some wouldn't. The men finally spoke. The town's secret isn't just letters. It's a pact made long ago. A promise to protect this town from something ancient. Those who fail to heed it, vanish. Tonight, you will witness what happens to those who break the rules. Clara swallowed hard. And those who follow, she asked. His gaze held hers. They survive, but they change. Their lives will never be the same. Mark's grip tightened. Why us? Why our house? The man's eyes softened slightly. Because you are central. Your family carries the key to the pact, though you don't know it yet. That key must be acknowledged tonight, or it will be lost forever. A sudden loud knock made them all jump. Clara's heart pounded. She realized the sound was not coming from the front door, it was behind them. Slowly, cautiously, they turned. A shadowy figure stood in the hallway, face obscured, movements deliberate. It didn't speak. It only watched. Mark, don't move, Clara whispered. The figure's head tilted, almost as if testing their reactions. The men stepped forward, notebook open. Remember, everything you feel, every fear, every instinct, use it. That is how you survive. The shadow moved closer, a whisper brushing past their ears. Do you understand? It seemed to say. Clara shivered. I understand, she said, though doubt gnawed at her mind. The figure paused, then retreated into the darkness, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Suddenly, another envelope slid across the floor, landing at Clara's feet. She picked it up, recognizing the jagged circle. Inside, a single sentence, the choice you make now decides the fate of tomorrow. She turned to Mark, who looked like he might collapse. We have to follow the rules exactly, she said firmly. Every step. They returned to the window, observing the street. Townspeople moved cautiously, some whispering to neighbors, some shaking visibly. Clara recognized familiar faces, Leo, the curious teen, pacing nervously, Mrs. Perez, clutching her envelope like a shield, even Mr. Clark, skeptical until now, watching shadows with wide eyes. Everyone was participating in the same trial. The man's voice broke through her thoughts. The final challenge will occur when the clock strikes midnight. The envelopes, the shadows, the knocks, they are all tests. How you respond now determines who lives and who disappears. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. Midnight was less than an hour away. Her stomach twisted with anxiety, but she squared her shoulders. Mark, we survive. We watch, we wait, and we survive. The man nodded, then gestured toward the back room. There is one more place you must see before the final challenge. Follow me, but quietly. No one must know you are here yet. They moved cautiously, stepping over broken floorboards, avoiding piles of old letters and photographs. In the corner, Clara noticed a small chest, dust-covered, half hidden under a tarp. The men opened it carefully, revealing dozens of envelopes, all identical to the ones they had received. These, he said, are the original warnings. Every household tonight has received a copy. The purpose is the same, to test your vigilance, your obedience, your courage. Mark whispered, How did they know about us? The man's gaze met his. They know because the town remembers. The pact binds the town, the families, the children. Even those who were unaware. Every generation is watched. Every house is tested. Your family has been central for decades. Clara felt a wave of fear, but also determination. She had survived this far, she had watched and learned. She could not fail now. Every sound outside, the rustle of leaves, the faint creak of a door, the distant bark of a dog, felt magnified. Time seemed to stretch unnaturally. Then, a scream cut through the night, sharp and panicked. Clara froze. It came from a house down the street. Mrs. Adams' voice, terrified, echoed, "No. Please, someone help me." Shadows moved violently in that direction. Clara felt a cold hand of dread grip her heart. The men whispered, "Observe. Learn. Every reaction matters." Clara clutched Mark's hand tighter. We can't fail." His eyes met hers, fear and trust intertwined. "We won't," he said, voice trembling. "We survive, together." Minutes passed, each one stretching endlessly. Then, a low, deliberate knock came from the street-facing window. Clara turned, heart racing. A shadow appeared, tall, cloaked, moving slowly across the street. Every townsperson seemed frozen in place. The figure stopped, as if aware they were watching. The men stepped forward, notebook in hand. "Remember, this is not about courage alone. It is about attention, precision, and obedience. One wrong move, and tonight ends differently for everyone." The figure outside raised a hand. The shadows in the street seemed to bend toward it. Clara felt a wave of nausea and fear. But she forced herself to focus. She had to survive. She had to follow the rules exactly. She turned to Mark. "Stay calm. Breathe. Watch. Wait." The shadowed figure retreated slightly, then vanished into the darkness between houses. Clara exhaled, feeling the weight of relief, fleeting. She knew the night was far from over. From across the street, another envelope slid out of a mailbox, landing near Leo. He picked it up, hands shaking. The men whispered. "Every envelope tonight carries a choice. Every choice carries consequence." Clara realized the depth of the trial. The town itself had become a living test, every family, every shadow, every envelope intertwined in a single, terrifying web. Mark whispered, almost to himself, "I don't know if I can do this." Clara gripped his hand firmly. "You can. We can. We've come this far. And we're not alone." Her words steadied both of them, though fear still lingered in every shadowed corner. A sudden crash from the street made them both jump. The sound of splintering wood. Clara's eyes darted toward the window. Across the street, a neighbor's front door had been thrown open, but no one was inside. Only the envelope lay on the porch, flapping in the wind. The men stepped closer to Clara. "Observe carefully. Every detail, every reaction, it matters." His voice was calm, but the weight of it pressed down like a physical force. Clara nodded, swallowing her fear. She would not fail. She had to survive this night, for herself, for Mark, for their family. Then, the clock struck 11:30. 30 minutes until midnight. The true test, the final challenge, was approaching. The air thickened, charged with anticipation, fear, and something ancient. Shadows moved faster now, whispering closer, almost as if the town itself were holding its breath. Clara glanced at Mark. "We stay alert. No mistakes. No hesitation." He nodded, though his hands trembled. The men stepped back, notebook closed. "Prepare yourselves. What comes next will define everything." The wind howled outside as the clock struck midnight. Clara and Mark crouched near the back of the abandoned house, hearts hammering in sync. Shadows flitted across the broken floorboards, stretching unnaturally long, as if alive. The man's voice cut through the thick air. "This is it. The final challenge begins. Stay close. Obey the rules. Observe everything." Suddenly, the front door slammed open. A figure standing in the doorway cloaked in darkness. Clara froze, gripping Mark's hand. The figure didn't speak. It only moved forward, gliding silently across the room. Its presence pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. Clara's mind raced. Do not open the door. Do not leave. Observe. The man raised his notebook. Remember, everything depends on your choices now. One wrong move, and the night will consume you. Clara swallowed hard, nodding. She felt Mark squeeze her hand, fear and trust colliding in their small grip. The shadow circled them slowly, then paused. Its hood fell back just enough for Clara to see a faint glint, a face, partially obscured, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The envelope's jagged circle seemed to pulse in her hand as if responding to the presence. The shadows across the room lengthened and twisted, forming shapes that mimicked the townspeople she had seen earlier, frozen in their homes, eyes wide in fear. A whisper echoed from the darkness, low and almost hypnotic, "Follow, obey, or vanish." Clara's knees shook. She pressed closer to Mark. The men stepped between them and the shadow. No reaction yet. Observe. Do not engage. Do not run. Minutes felt like hours. Then, the shadow moved toward the back window, glancing out at the street. Clara realized every envelope, every house, every resident was part of a single pattern, like pieces of a puzzle. The town itself was alive tonight, judging, testing, and waiting. The men spoke softly. You are not alone. Every family that follows the rules survives. Every disobedience disappears. He pointed to the photographs stacked in the corner, faces of children, parents, neighbors, some familiar, some gone. All of these people ignored the warnings. They paid the price. Clara's breath caught. She scanned the photographs, children she had played with, adults she had spoken to, none remembered, yet each face carried a silent warning. Mark, we have to survive, she whispered, voice trembling. But firm. He nodded, gripping her hand tightly. Together. The shadow outside shifted again, this time reaching for the broken window. A low, eerie sound, like a sigh, filled the room. Clara's instinct screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to remain still. The men whispered, focus. Obey. Watch. Every detail matters. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the street. Another envelope flew from a mailbox, landing near Leo. He picked it up, trembling. Clara realized that the envelopes were not just warnings, they were instructions, tests of obedience. The town itself was orchestrating the trial. Clara turned back to the shadow. It raised its hands, revealing the jagged circle etched into its palms, identical to the symbol on every envelope. She understood now, this figure was the embodiment of the town's pact, the ancient force enforcing the rules. The air vibrated with tension, the room growing colder with every second. The men stepped forward, notebook in hand. You know what to do. Every movement counts. Do not open the doors, do not speak to the shadows, do not panic. And most importantly, stay together. Clara nodded, heart hammering. The shadow's eyes fixed on her. It moved closer, slower now, deliberate, testing her courage. Clara clenched the envelope tightly, feeling the pulse of energy from the symbol. Mark shivered beside her. Clara. I can't, she pressed a finger to his lips. Yes, you can. We've come this far. We survive, together. The figure stopped inches from them, silent, towering, almost human but impossibly dark. Clara's chest heaved. She realized this was the culmination of everything, the envelopes, the shadows, the test of obedience. The men whispered, now, acknowledge the pact. Accept it. Only then will the night end. Clara took a deep breath. She raised the envelope, holding it before her. We acknowledge it. We respect it. We follow its rules. The shadow paused, as if considering her words. A low hum filled the room, resonating through the walls and floor. The figure's shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension in the room easing, but only just. A knock came from the back door. Clara froze. The shadow glanced toward it, then back at her. The envelope pulsed once, brighter than before. She knew instinctively, do not open. She whispered to Mark, do not move. Watch. Wait. The knock stopped. Silence returned, heavy and oppressive. The man closed his notebook, his expression relieved. You did well. Few survive this night without faltering. You followed the rules. You observed. You endured. Clara's knees shook, relief mixing with exhaustion. She slumped against Mark, who clutched her tightly. Outside, the town seemed to exhale. Lights flickered back to normal, shadows retreated, and the wind softened. The envelopes had been collected, either by unknown hands or perhaps the town itself. Clara realized with a shiver that the night had changed everyone, even those who didn't know what had happened. The men stepped forward. Remember this night. Tell no one everything you saw. Share only the lessons: vigilance, obedience, unity. The town survives because of these rules, and so do you. He glanced at the shadow, which now faded into the darkness of the street, leaving only silence. Clara and Mark walked back toward their home, enveloped in the eerie calm of the early morning. Every house was quiet now, neighbors slowly emerging, cautious but alive. Clara glanced at Mark. We made it, we survived. He nodded, exhaustion and relief written across his face. As they entered their home, Clara carefully placed the envelope in a drawer. She exhaled, feeling the weight of the night lift slightly. She turned to Mark. We're safe, for now. But the town, it's alive in ways we'll never fully understand. Mark shivered, wrapping a blanket around himself. I don't want another night like this. Clara smiled faintly, though her eyes held lingering fear. Neither do I. But we're stronger for it. The man's words echoed in her mind as she prepared for bed: observe. Obey. Survive. A soft hum came from the mailbox outside, a reminder that while this night had ended, the pact endured, eternal and vigilant. Clara paused and looked into the camera, almost instinctively, as if speaking to those who might follow her story. If you think you've survived your fears, remember, every choice matters. Stay alert, respect the warnings, and never underestimate what hides in the shadows. She paused, letting the words settle. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more tales like this. You never know what's watching, even in your own town. Mark yawned, the tension easing slightly. Clara smiled faintly, the first real smile of the night. But deep in her mind, she knew this night would never be forgotten, and neither would the envelopes, the shadows, or the town's ancient secret. The screen faded to black, leaving the soft hum of the night echoing as the last whispers of the pact lingered in the air.